What's up YouTube, Dell here from Zephyr War Games, and today I am bringing you my third place, DarkWorld Danger Unchained. That's right, so the Unchained engine was suggested to me by FUD and JJPK on YouTube. They said try out the new Unchained cards in DarkWorlds because there was an OCG list that had done really well. So I put it together last minute. There's a couple of little changes in the deck that I'll explain that I want to make throughout the profile so you can understand where I'm going to take this next. But it did do incredibly well. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. So there's 4 rounds of Swiss at the locals today. My first round was against Numelia. I was able to win that one. My second round was against Sky Striker. We drew that one. To be fair, I took quite a bit of time trying to make my combo plays to get to where I needed to go and was unable to finish it off. And then round 3 was against Tier Elements. Took that to game 3. They milled Scattershot in time, basically. And then round 4 was against Infernobles, and I was able to win that one. So with all that out of the way, we're now going to blitz through basically the staple lineup of Triple Snow, Triple Rainbow, Triple Genta, Double Grepher, 1 Gold, 1 Silver, and the new addition to this is the 1 Lucian. Now the reason I've gone with the 1 Lucian in this one is because it can actually help you get into a very cool rank 6 going first. Not that you should really need to worry about it, and more I think about it, trying to get into Caesar, it's not that necessary if you've been able to silver loop. What this does allow you to do with the Unchained cards though is it does allow you to kind of play through a little bit more, draw on lock birds. It allows you to play under nib, through nib. There's just so much you can hold back in order to push that a little bit further forward. And because this was my first time, like I hadn't even pre-tested this, I just went with, okay, what Unchained cards do I think will work? I put them in last minute, chose to play DarkWorld, and I was like, you know what, let's see how we can do with the Unchained cards. And to be honest, Yama is, unbelievably good. Gold put in a lot of work today. Not so much his second effect, but like between gold and silver, just being able to keep summoning themselves back was near invaluable. That being said, you can very easily consider taking gold out. The one thing that I'd want to consider putting into the main deck would be at least 2 lava golems, but I'm still kind of playing around with that as it is. The Lucian, I never discarded it off of my opponent, like off of Ceruli. Like in the OCG list, the idea was that you would discard Lucian off of the Ceruli, and then you'd give your opponent another Ceruli, you'd discard another card, and you keep going and going and going, and you would loop the Fabled Raven round. In this one, the idea was just to get another level 6 to the board so that if I did get to my Unchained engine, I was able to make Caesar. Ultimately, I don't think it's worth it. I think you're better off going down the Yama into the Unchained, Abomination, Anguish, and Rage route. But that really comes down to personal preference and with more testing to figure out where you want it to go. The final DarkWorld card is 1 Ceruli. I personally think 1 is enough in this particular lineup. It was the OCG one that was playing 3 Ceruli. Honestly, I don't think it needs to be at 3. In this version, I still feel 1's more than enough. I search it when I need it or when I want it. And then I ideally want to be sending silver for the hand loop and then gold for the pop too. I actually used the silver hand loop. I think I did it in 2 games. So that obviously was pretty much an auto win once you complete that. So yeah. Then I went down to the 1 Diabolica. I still really like this. A lot of people obviously didn't know what it did. But then on top of that, like when I was able to use it as discard fodder for anything I wanted to, when I was able to use it as trading fodder, it got revealed for danger. Even if it didn't get revealed for danger, every time I discarded a fiend via a card effect, I was able to summon Diabolica down. And it just helped me get into rank 8 plays or just helped me kind of link climb. I only played 1 rank 8 monster. The one time I made it, I got impermed and it completely stopped my turn, which was terrible. So, highly considering that. I still really like this inclusion though. Just as a free body on the board once you start triggering some effects off. On to the dangers. So, again, pretty standard nice one. I've gone with 2 Nessie, 2 Mothman. The only matchup that this was useless in, or not useless, but was less effective was in the tier element matchup. But even then, it's such a big kind of, like, they've got to see 1 of 4 cards or 1 of like 3, 6, 7 or 9, 1 of like 9 cards off of the Mothman to discard. So it is a little bit risky, but then obviously they still need to snipe this to get it done. The only time that this deck failed me, which is why I ended up losing kind of like game 1 against the tier element player, his board was like Rukalos, Rhino Heart, Time Thief Reader, plus Sulliak, plus Crime, plus he ended up, throughout the plays, ended up going into Dracus Depelia, He also got into the Grepher Fusion. So I had to play through all of that. I was able to negate everything apart from the Rukalos. And then my last play was reveal Chupacabra, and he sniped the Chupacabra, and I was like, ah. Like, if he didn't hit the Chupacabra, I would have been able to keep going. And then in the Sky Striper matchup, he sniped 3 dangers in a row. So that's when the RNG factor really kills you. 1 Bigfoot, 1 Thunderbird, 1 Jackalope, and then the 1 Chupacabra. So, pretty stranded on this one, really. I don't think there's anything more that really needs to be said. Deal with set cards, deal with face-up cards, special summon from the deck, special summon from the grave, draw 1, ditch 1, search out any danger you need. So they all put their works in. Like, when they resolve and they don't get hit, it's just golden. You're just, like, spamming the board, drawing more cards. Luckily, I never saw, like, no one dropped a draw against me today. Thank you. But yeah. Then, obviously, Zephyros the Elite, 1 Salamander. And then for the Unchained cards, now, I'm not calling this officially, like, a Unchained or a DarkWorld Unchained deck. It's more so like DarkWorld's featuring Unchained, because I'm only playing 2 main deck Unchained. So we've got the 1 Shayama and we've got the 1 Shavara. I don't want to play any of the traps, and I did consider that. The reason that I considered it was, like, to do the pop 1, you need to tribute off an Unchained monster. And ideally, with the route of play I was deciding to take this last minute was to make the rank 6, so not have an Unchained left on the board. There was only one time where I left my board with Caesar plus Yama, and I was like, I really wish I had a trap card. Only once out of all those games. The issue with the trap card is if you have it, you then want to set it, and then throughout your plays, you want to leave Yama on the board, which personally I don't want to do. I'd rather use Yama plus any other monster to go into Rage, and then I've got another form of disruption. The thing with making your Yama and your Rage and everything like that is you need to make them as, like, one of your last link summons, because you want your link summon in the link zone to be something a little bit more effective, something like an Appaloosa, but then it's not the end of the world if you do leave Rage there. For the spells, 2 Gates of the DarkWorld. I saw this card in my hand way too many times. I did consider throughout the play if I wanted it at 3 or not. I know a lot of lists play it at 3. Personally, the reason I don't like it at 3 is because if I can't get a DarkWorld or technically a Fiend to the graveyard, I would much rather see my Genta than my Gates. If I see my Gates, it's useless on its own. With Genta, at least with Genta, I can discard it, put it to the graveyard, and set up the gate play. I get it, a lot of people are playing 3, and there'll probably be some comments down here going, you should really be playing gate at 3. Personally, I feel that 2 is enough. Throughout every bit of testing, there's been once or twice where I'm like, I really wish I had a 3rd gate, but then there's been quite a lot of times where I'm like, I don't want the 3rd gate. Continuing with the spells, 2 Triple Tactics for us. This put in a lot of work today, and mainly, not so much getting me to Corridor, but actually getting me to card destruction. This was like insane MVP. The only time you don't want to play this was against the tier element matchup, which is absolutely fine. But the fact I was going, cool, Frost, search out card destruction, really, really good. One thing I did learn with this deck is, and I kind of underestimated it and undervalued it, is if your opponent's got an Ash, they're not really going to use it on any danger reveal at all. So they'll use it at the first instance that they can. Because they'll be like, oh, I'm never going to be able to use this. And then you go, okay, cool. Chaining 2, search, and I'll go Ash. It's the exact same thing with Imperm. Like, basically what I'm saying is you need to get to a point that you bait out the Imperm first, or you bait out the Ash first before you go for one of your big plays. And what I mean by that is, if you're building up your board off of your dangers, you're drawing, you kind of want to be using Genta. That's the first time where your opponent could Ash you. And if they don't choose to Ash that, you can probably safely assume they don't have one. Also, off the back of the Genta as well, you can safely assume that if they don't draw you, they're not going to draw you at that point. The only thing you won't know is if they have an Imperm, and that's why my one mistake against the Infernoble Knight players is it wasn't until I made my Coach King Giant Trainer, and then he Impermed me, and I was like, I should have seen that coming. So that was a massive misplay on my behalf. But yeah, card destruction MVP. The only time this messed me over is that I did it against a Sky Striker player, and they drew into a Druid Swarm. And I was like, if they didn't have the Druid Swarm, I would have been golden. But anyway. Triple Tactic Talents, again, puts in a lot of work. This is just one of the ones where it's like, okay, well, I don't want to discard my entire hand. I've already gone through all my DarkWorlds. I don't want to go through any more. I'm going to go with Talents. So I'm quite happy with that lineup. I decided to switch into 2 Allure and 1 Trade-In. Now, what I did do right at the end was I did have Lava Golem in the main deck, which is why trading was a little bit more prominent. I was like, right, okay, no, okay, cool. We'll take out the Lava Golem, we'll put it into the side deck, we'll play it with the Allures, and I still wanted to keep the trading in because I was still playing a lot of level 8s. I didn't know if Kashtira was going to be there, and I still like the idea of getting to trade in and then activating trade in on a Bigfoot to get rid of the Right Heart, and then my graveyard effects are all still good and golden to go off. So I messed around with these ratios. Sometimes I was even siding out on the Allure, so I had a 1-on-1. I'm not decided on these yet. I'm in an RN. Like, the Allure is great, but the only card you ever banish and you're like, yeah, cool, happy that that's banished, is Genta. Like, everything else, you're like, I want it in the graveyard. Like, I'd much rather trade in a Rainbow or a Greffer than a Allure, a Rainbow or a Greffer. So it is a bit of give and take. It's entirely up to you. Yes, you could play the level 7 Kaiju, but in this version, I don't need my normal summon, so why would I play a Kaiju when I can just use Lava Golem? I think it's just a little bit better. So arguably, if I'm going to look back at doing anything, you take out the Allures, put in the 2 Lava Golems in its place, and then probably even considering putting in another trade-in, just because obviously this isn't great going first, but if you see one of it, it's not the end of the world, because you still discard it, you still banish it, it's a fiend. So that's kind of what I would be looking for. I'll also show you the side deck at the end of the video, so don't worry. So then the final 2 cards in the main deck is the one Archives and the one Accession. Both of them did their work. There was a couple of times where I opened up both of these and I'm like, ugh, they're not cards you want to see in your hand. They're cards you kind of want to search out a little bit later on down the line of the combo. But yeah, still put their work in, natural usage. I was relatively happy with the way the deck performed. The only kind of question I had was if I wanted the Shy Armor or not. Because the idea behind the Shy Armor is you want it to get it discarded. You want to discard it off of a danger, you want to discard it off of like Gate of the DarkWorld, you want to get it to the graveyard, and then that's when it's going to really, really shine and give you a bit of additional advantage. But there was a lot of times where I opened it up and I was like, I really don't want to be seeing you right about now. Can you just go to the graveyard? But being in the graveyard is where it really shines, because then you destroy a set card or a fiend on the board, bring it back. You can also then get the ability to target a card you control, destroy it, and then you get to pop a spell or trap, which actually helped me out in the Sky Striker matchup because he was playing DPE. So I was able to activate this, pop one of my set cards, threaten to summon it back, and then effect to use itself to destroy itself, to then destroy one card, one spell and trap. And then obviously this would have threatened to float into the Unchained monster as well. So they decided to get rid of this so that the spell and trap would stay, and that allowed them to activate a monster effect for me to then frost and continue to make my play. So moving on to the extra deck, we'll go through the Unchained monsters first. So I was playing the one Abomination, the one Anguish, the one Rage, and the one Yama. Like, some people weren't playing, like when I did look at some of the lists, people weren't playing Abomination. This put in so much work for me, it was crazy. It was great against the Infernoble Knight matchup, because there were so many times I was like, okay, cool. He pretty much made it a Towers Trials, and I was like, okay, cool. Abomination, pop the field spell. Abomination, pop the one that doesn't allow it to be targeted. End phase, pop the one that won't allow it to be destroyed. And you're just kind of picking the bits off. But the MVP is Yama. Like, the fact this is just 2 Fiend monsters is insane. And then when it's special summons, you get to add an Unchained monster. So unless I had a card that was going to discard for me to send the Yama, I was going for the Savara. This was the main one. And then the idea is that I would then use the Unchained Soul Lord of Yama plus any monster to get into Anguish. And then sometimes I could even Anguish off the Ceruli that I'd give my opponent to end on an Abomination. And this just made the ability that when I activate a session off of the back of just having it set, as long as I discard a card that was going to pop, so something like Greffer, if Greffer then becomes a pop 2. On top of that as well, that if I had the Greffer Fusion on the board and my opponent activated an effect and I sent the gold then technically becomes a pop 3, which is really, really good. So really liked it, enjoyed it. Rage was just another nice one that was like, oh, cool, I've got a link to. And this is what makes these cards so good for the Unchained strategy in general. Is the fact that these are Unchained Souls. That's the one thing the Unchained cards missed, was the fact that apart from the big level 8s, they weren't called Unchained Souls. And all of these needed 2 monsters including an Unchained Soul. So these actually put in a lot of work. I really did enjoy these. It's only the main deck that I've got to figure out. Like, I'm still undecided if I want to play the trap card. I don't know if I want to play more of these, because the idea is that no matter what I do, is I make the Yama then searches me this out. So then all I need to do is destroy a set card or a fiend monster, summon this down, and then get Lucian to the board, and then straight away overlay, and that's going to give me access to my Triple D High Wave King. Now, yes, you can play the rank 8 if you want to, which isn't a bad option as well, but I don't really see myself ranking this up unless I've already used this effect and then it comes back to me the next turn. So the extra deck was the only thing that was a little bit of a tight question to it, of like, what do I want to put? And I'll show you the rest of it so you can kind of see how it goes. So we've got the Appaloosa, Unicorn put in a decent bit of work as well, Akashic, Muckracker, all of those put in an even amount of work for me. Crossshoot, I never summoned it, but I very easily could have. That's not an issue. IP, again, I summoned it once or twice to get me into Unicorn, which is really, really good. Daguerre's, I summoned it quite a lot, and it put in a lot of work for me. More so the draw effect than anything else. I didn't use any of the others. 2 Greffers, and then the 1 Coach Trainer. Like, the Coach Trainer is just a really cool win con in time, and that draw, but literally, because, like I said, I should have baited out a hand trap. I should have tried to, like, feel around for those imperms first before I even made this, and I foolishly didn't. I just made it at the first chance I could, attempted to use the effect, and it got impermed. I was like, yeah, my entire turn just ends. So that was my mistake. I'm not sure if I'd still keep it. There was a lot of times where I had 2 8s on the board but couldn't get to the third, and I was like, I really wish that I could have just made a stronger rank 8, so something like a Zombie Stein or something like Hope Harbinger. So this is one that's questionable to me. There are a couple of others that I might consider. This is the only issue with the deck, is the fact that the Unchained do take up a good chunk of the engine, or a good chunk of the extra deck. But to be honest, I don't really mind it. It's more so getting the ratios correct with the main deck. Yes, it does feel like a bit of a waste that you don't get the trap card, and then for example, if you opened up the trap card, get to pop it, then you're good to go. But the idea is you're still then trying to hunt for a one of. Like, I don't think a 1/1 and a one of a trap would be useful, because then you're either relying on the trap to be popped and then not having either of these in the hand or the graveyard already. So I think the only thing I would possibly consider is you'd play Savara at more, so that when you got Savara, if you hard opened the Savara, you could search out the Shiyama off of Yama, and then you still need to get this discarded to the graveyard. So the only issue is you need to focus on this being one of your discard outlets off of the back, and the only discard outlets you have is random off of Droll, selected off of Salamander, or discarded through Gates. So the only way you can kind of consistently make this a little bit more effective is discarding this off of Salamander. So it's give and take, it's entirely up to you, but even then when you can discard it off of Salamander, you're like, alright, I might as well just summon it. So something to still figure out. I'm now going to show you my side deck. So side deck was all based down to locals, but to be totally honest, Lava God on my feet is a great option for this deck. Triple Droll, not Bird, pretty standard on the format. Double Nibiru, and then I played a lot of just normal spell one-offs. This should have been a Harpy's Feather Duster, but I didn't have one on me. So it's like Darkhold, just in case it give me like an Ibli Lock or something like that. Lightning Storm, like I said, it should have been 1 Duster. And then I've got 2 Cyclones, 2 Evenlies, and the 1 Eradicator. So again, all of these just being able to be searched or set off of Frost was incredibly important. Especially like if I'd seen this in some of the matchups, just to flip this and rip out spells or traps or whatever, then it's an auto win con. The card's just that insane. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Adapted for the side deck, but you can kind of see that there's a lot of board breakers in there, a couple of go second cards. Even though the deck can do very well going second, I only won 1 dice roll the entire event, and that was against the Infernobles. So yeah, but I was quite surprised. Like, the one matchup that I feared the most was the Tier Element one, because I was like, I know the Tier Element matchup isn't the greatest for this, but I know it's weakened as well. But like, his end ball was so incredibly powerful. I was like, yeah, if I don't have Lava Golem on main, which I didn't, I'm going to struggle to break this. And surprisingly enough, if it wasn't, like I said at the start, for a couple of snipes on the right cards, I might have been able to break it. Not guaranteeing the full break, but it would have been nice to kind of try and break it and pull it apart, which would have been really cool. Anyway, that's it for the entire video. If you don't have any questions at all, by all means, please put in the comments down below. I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. I do enjoy the involvement of the Unchained cards. I'm still messing around with the ratios. If you've tried it out at home and you have some suggestions, then let me know. I'll be more than happy to play around with it. I'm still tweaking and changing this deck. The one other thing that I do want is I do want a second corridor. I really do want a second corridor. I was hoping to pick one up there at locals today, but no one had any, so I might have to buy one to get there, because I think the corridor is actually really important in this version, just to be able to get you to like Ceruli, Lucian as consistently and as early as possible without relying on the Frost. And then it does mean that your spare copies of corridor could be set and then destroyed by one of these, so it's not always the end of the world. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. As absolutely always, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.